When I have questions, when I need to wax poetic about the Supreme Court and just how terrible an idea it is to add justices to that court, I think of one guy who can help me through it. He is truly an expert. He has worked all throughout Washington, D.C. In fact, he was the first chief of staff to Congressman Mike Pompeo. He is the executive director and general counsel of the new Civil Liberties Alliance. You can check him out online, nclalegal.org. Mark Chenoweth is here with us on the Larry Elder Show. Mark, thanks for being with us.
Well, it's great to be with you again, Jennifer. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it is great to hear your voice. As soon as I saw this fierce foursome come walking out, Senator Markey and Senator Jones, Representative Jones, Representative Johnson, or Representative Nadler come out and present this idea, I thought, here it is. This is what people have been waiting for. This was the warning from President Trump and from Republicans that said, if we lose in the Senate, if we lose the White House, this very progressive agenda is coming. And boy, here it is. Were you surprised after hearing Joe Biden kind of punt a little bit by saying there'd be a commission just a week ago to look at all things Supreme Court? Were you surprised to see these very progressive Democrats come out and bring forth this idea to pack the Supreme Court so early, Mark?
No, I can't say I was surprised. I think that the president, by appointing the commission that he appointed, gave a signal that he is perfectly happy to have his allies try to intimidate the Supreme Court. And I view this piece of legislation as an intimidation tactic every bit as much as the president's appointment of the commission is an intimidation tactic aimed directly at the justices on the Supreme Court.
Now, there were a lot of reasons given by Democrats as to why they need to add these additional justices. And we'll go through a few of those because I have a few friends who are on the left side of the aisle who said, well, some of this stuff makes sense. You know, the court is overloaded. It does take a while for cases to go to the Supreme Court. That was one of the arguments made by Representative Mondaire Jones, that the caseload is just so heavy and that by adding additional members to the Supreme Court, you could speed up the process of getting these lawsuits in front of the Supreme Court. What do you say to that?
I think that's garbage. The Supreme Court hears about 80 cases a year. It's been less than that for the last several years, but on average, during the Chief Justice Roberts' time leading the court, it's been about 80 cases on average a year. About half of those are criminal cases, and about half of them are civil cases involving either statutory or constitutional questions. And in our lifetime, as recently as the 1970s, 1980s, the court heard 150, 160 cases a year. And so the idea that it's overworked when it's only hearing 80 cases a year now, I think is far-fetched.
Now, this is, I don't know, there's with the young kids, they talk about how people gaslight them. Don't get into relationships with people who gaslight you. And if you want to see a supreme example of gaslighting someone, those Democrats that stood up this week were gaslighting the American people. And dictionary.com helps them because the definition of court packing, Mark, it seems to have changed over the last year. I can remember court packing be like a traditional definition, adding more judges to the court. That's what we would deem court packing. But now it seems that the new definition by the left is doing what President Trump did by appointing 3 justices. Now, he did not go out. He did not use like an overreach of power to do this. You had justices who either died or resigned. President Trump was able to put a nominee forth, which is what every president has done, even Obama with Merrick Garland. The Senate chose to pick it up, and the Senate chose to confirm his nominees. Now, it seems that we have changed the definition. Once again, we talk a lot about changing goalposts with the COVID pandemic and all of this. It always seems like there's a moving target. But how do we come to terms with this change of definition? Because it's real, right? I'm not making this up. I'm not crazy.
No, you're right that Democrats are trying to change the meaning of the term court packing. And originally, I thought it was because it's a bad term, right? It's a negative, has negative connotations, and so they were trying to use that term to attack the perfectly legitimate things that President Trump was doing in terms of appointing justices. But now they've turned around, and it seems as though they're trying to almost turn it into a perfectly acceptable thing to do. And I don't quite understand the vocabulary, but George Orwell is the one who warned us that this is how politics works, right? That that you try to change the meaning of words in order to get what you want, and that's what's happening here.
But it just seems like truth is missing, Mark. It seems like there are... It used to be that Democrats and Republicans they would disagree on things, but they could agree on a set of facts, but maybe disagree on how to get there. Now it seems like we're changing truths. We're changing facts just to try to reach a political goal. Mark Chenoweth is here. He is from the New Civil Liberties Alliance. I want you to check him out, NCLAlegal.org. He is the executive director and general counsel. Mark, in all seriousness, why is this a bad idea? Why should it matter to the American people if Democrats do ultimately end up adding justices to the Supreme Court?
Well, I think the main reason is that it risks individual liberties and individual rights. So there's already a protection for the majority in Congress. Laws are not passed without a supportive majority, without the signature of the president. That's a protection for the majority. But where does the protection for minorities come from? And that could be a religious minority, it could be a racial minority, It could be an ideological minority. There's lots of different minorities in this country, but we all have the same rights, or at least we're supposed to. And the courts are the ones, ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court is the one that ensures that those rights are respected and prevents zealous majorities from violating our civil liberties and our civil rights. And if the Supreme Court is not able to do that because it too is turned into a politicized majoritarian institution, then our rights are going to be sacrificed as a result of that.
In our final moment here, Mark Chenoweth, do you think, is this real? Because there are a lot of people that are saying this isn't going to happen. Nancy Pelosi says she's not going to bring this up in the House, but if Nadler's talking about it, she's probably close. Biden is obviously willing to do this. Whoever is controlling his White House is willing to see this happen. Is it going to happen?
My colleague at NCLA, Professor Philip Hamburger from Columbia University Law School, had an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today, and he makes the very valid point that it's already happening.
Yeah.
This is an intimidation tactic, and it's already having an intimidating effect on the justices. And so whether or not this piece of legislation comes into effect, it may not. I hope that there aren't enough votes in Congress to make that happen. But the intimidation is real, and it's already
underway.
It's already happening, and it's already to be despised.
Mark Chenoweth, thank you so much for what you're doing. Executive Director, General Counsel, New Civil Liberties Alliance. Check them out right now. Support them, NCLAlegal.org. We thank you so much for your expertise. Have a great weekend.